Hi there, my name is Wayne Headland with TL Sites. In this video tutorial, we're going to talk about how to navigate the Avada WordPress theme. So the Avada theme, and we're going to just jump over here very quickly as you look at my shared screen, is one of the themes that we have available. And hopefully you're using the child theme. Avada comes with the theme itself and then the child theme. The child theme lets you make customizations, and then when Avada makes changes to the theme, your customizations don't get lost in the shuffle. So all that said, we're using the Avada theme, and the Avada theme is actually a very robust, powerful website builder that lets us do just about anything we want. It is actually my favorite website builder to date. And so we're going to talk in this video just about navigation, because there's a lot of cool stuff here. But for people who are new either to WordPress or to the Avada theme, it may seem initially overwhelming. That said, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. That's why we're giving you this tutorial, so that you can get to where you need to go in order to make the updates and changes to the website that you want to. Now, I'm on the website right now. I'm obviously already logged in to WordPress, and we look at the very top bar here. We've got a few different options, and actually maybe I should digress and just mention to you, generally speaking, 90% of the time, if you want to make changes to a site, you're going to just go to the page live and then click on edit live. That said, on occasion, you might need to go to the back end of WordPress, especially if you want to update things like posts, and you might be able to, come into the posts and go into Live Builder on one of the posts or into the edit section on a post. But generally speaking, when we want to edit a page, we're going to just go to that page. For instance, this prices page, and then we're going to edit this page. Now, there's two options to edit. You can click on the edit page button, which generally speaking, again, I don't recommend. This is kind of an advanced tool that lets people like me, who's a little bit more of advanced website builders, to be able to come in and do some things. So what we actually want instead is we want to, and I'm going to go ahead and just navigate back to our home page. We're already there. We're going to click on the edit live. In fact, if I mouse over, you'll see there are a number of options. We'll talk about that later. So we're going to mouse over, and we can either click edit page or we can just click edit live, and that will do the same thing. That's going to take us back into the WordPress Avada theme workspace. And so you'll notice here that we can still see the website in the bulk of the window here. And it's pretty much the same thing that what we saw when we saw it live. But now, when I mouse over various elements, you'll see things are popping up, like boxes and various other things. That's going to be super important for us down the road. But before we do that, let's just talk about a few things that's happening here in the navigation. Now, first of all, when you pop into this back end, you may or may not see this left sidebar. And that is because sometimes Avada will open and it'll already be collapsed. So as we look at this top black bar up here, let's look at a few things that we see. Right here is the Avada logo, and then right to the right here, we see this toggle sidebar. Super important. That's going to open and close this sidebar. Generally speaking, we're going to want that sidebar open most of the time. The only time I would close it if I want to see what the website looks like full screen. That said, we're going to open that up. But let's look at a few of these other things. What's this library thing? Well, this library is going to open up something, again, it's going to be a little bit more advanced, but if you're building a website, the library can be a very useful tool. For most of you who are watching this, you won't need to worry about it. The history is kind of like going to show you a history of everything, all the changes that you've made. So if you made a bunch of changes, you're like, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Then you can actually click on the history and go back to a previous iteration of the changes that you had made live. And then we've got preferences. I'm not even going to click there. We don't need to worry about add new or delete. So what we really want right here is the toggle sidebar. Moving off to the right, we've got support, which I've never used. This one is actually very important. This is going to let us preview our web page either from like a window, like a machine, like a PC or Mac, or we can look at it if it were on a tablet. So what would it look like if we're on a tablet? Right now I can see that there's a couple problems here with the tablet view. And so I'm actually going to fix that right now. Don't pay attention. Please pay no attention to the person in the background. Actually, that did not adjust it because I'm using the wrong one. or we won't worry about fixing that right now. And then we can also see it in mobile view. So what does it look like when it's in mobile view? Now, it's double dipped here, and that is because this right here is supposed to be turned off for mobile and tablet. There we go. So sorry about that, but again, getting a preview of another lesson right there, so we can see it in tablet view. That looks good. We can see it in mobile view, and then of course we can see it on the PC view. And then we can click this preview button. Rarely do I do that because it's pretty much the same or the equivalent of turning this off. And to be quite honest with you, sometimes what I will do is right over here, if I make a change, I'm just going to very quickly make a small change. You'll see this save has turned blue. And this blue save button is actually important. If we don't save our work, you get it, you've just lost a ton of time. So I don't hit the blue save button often, but when I'm finished with the work or the changes that I want to make, then I'll go ahead and do that. So right here, I might say drive with Wayne, right? And I'm done with my changes. I just want to save that, right? Now, what I also will just kind of point out here is this exit, this X button. When I click on the X button, it actually doesn't exit it. It opens up some options. And the options are exit to the page front end, exit to the page back end, or exit to the dashboard. So right now, it's not easy to be able to get back to the WordPress back dashboard. So that's what this exit to dashboard is going to do. It's going to take us back to the WordPress navigation. The other thing that we'll see here is the exit to back end, and you're really not going to do that. Exit to front end is going to actually take you back to the website where we started. Now for me, I'm going to go ahead and go back into Edit Live, and note for you, what I usually do is I hold the Control key on my keyboard and click Exit to Page Front End. What that does is it actually opens the website in another tab so that I can review it if I want to live or navigate to other places. So I've got the back end open here, and I've got the front end, as it were, open here. All right, so those are some of the basics of this top black bar. But now let's get into the nitty gritty. We've got this white bar here, which is going to be super important for us to be able to make updates and changes down the road. Again, it can seem just a little bit overwhelming because it seems like it just goes on and on and on. That said, it doesn't have to be overwhelming once you understand what we're looking at. So all of these right here are at the very first level. You see there's several levels here, right? This is level 1 and this is level 2, and these are named columns. These here are named sections. As a matter of fact, if I click on a section, you're going to see they're going to highlight right over here. So I click here, and this entire section highlight. That basically tells me what this right here is going to make changes inside this section. If I click on a column, it's going to highlight something inside of that section. Right here, it's this box right here. And then I can click inside the column. I can actually select other elements. So there is a title element right there, or there is a text box element. We can come down here to start learning, whatever this is, and it's showing me this section right here. It's an entire section called Start Learning, and then I can see 2 columns. Here's one column right here with some titles, and then another column over here with a checklist. Now, so the easy way to navigate through, especially a very long website like this one, is you can scroll, which is a little bit of a pain, but if I wanted to make changes to this section, I can scroll down to this section, or I can actually just navigate from here. But again, it might seem overwhelming to scroll through all of this as well. So usually the first thing that I do when I open up the Avada backend is I make sure that the sidebar is open, and then I select this navigation right here. And when I click on this little down drop caret, it actually collapses all of my sections. And now I can very quickly see the different sections. I can navigate to them without any issues or problems. So it's going to basically let me get to the section that I want. Okay. Now this section says hero 3 times. And the reason for that is because there are some sections that were created uniquely for the mobile version. So we don't need to worry about that today. That'll be another conversation. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about navigating some of these more detailed things. So let's jump over just randomly to courses right here. And as we see courses, here's the courses section. We can see it's lit up. And I'm going to expand that section now so that I can see. And if I want to, I can even collapse all of the columns inside there so I can see them a little bit easier. So I actually see there's this column that says 1-to-1. When I click on it, nothing happens, probably because it's related to something mobile. But then I can see 2/5, 1/5, 1/5, and 1/5, right? So 5, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. So it makes up an entire row right there, and that's easy. And so I can come in here now to this 2/5 or maybe this 1/5 and expand it, and I can see each of the different elements in here. You might not know what all of the elements are, but in general, you can kind of see what they are. So if you need to make changes to them, you can. All right, so that's navigating. Now, what if you have to navigate to a unique element? So far, each of these elements right here are pretty easy to understand. And incidentally, I don't want to get into making changes too much, but we can also make changes right here. So here is a change example, and I just made a change just by putting my mouse in the text. That said, sometimes we have to make more advanced changes, so we can click on the edit navigation to do that. But the other piece that we have, and I'm going to actually expand all of these again, is sometimes we have unique elements like this checklist element. And when I click on it, I can kind of see where that checklist element is part of a, let's just find a different one. This counter circles element, right? So showing that 95% right here. So when I click on these, I can see them. So when I go into that, I'm going to be able to edit inside that counter circle, but then you'll notice more details in here where I have to navigate to more unique information. For example, if I want to, I can create more circles, etc., or I can navigate to make changes to that individual circle. So all of that's going to be covered on how to make changes to our website. We've talked about all of the different elements. The last element that we need to talk about is actually, I'm going to save the work that we did here, and but let's just scroll back to the top and look at maybe the About page. And you'll notice that I was able to navigate to another page right from within Avada, which is great. Let's go ahead and collapse all of these. And let's look at our team right here and expand it again. So there's one more navigation tip that can be a little confusing for people, and that's something called a nested column. So I'm going to collapse these columns right here, but we see this column 1-to-1. When I mouse over it, it's showing my my person here, Mike Hart. But you'll notice when I mouse over it, it says nested columns. That is because sometimes it is necessary to create a specific look or feel. It's necessary to create columns within columns, and it just gives us a little bit more of some flexibility to do some unique things. So when we see nested columns, it's very important that you remember that they act just a little bit differently than normal columns. So I could see this column 1. When I mouse over and expand it, I can see there are 2 columns. Here's the first column, and here's the second one. If I make changes, like if I come in and make changes inside of a column, we'll say instructor number 2, right there, I just made that change. The key is, and we'll talk about this when we talk about making changes as well, is we actually have to click on this finished button. Whenever we're making changes inside of a nested column, we actually have to click the finished button before the save button actually appears. I'm going to just show that to you again because a lot of people do get confused with this. So I'm going to make changes to this. I'll close this, and I have to, now it says save right there. I don't know if I saved it before or not. So that is an important piece of nested columns. All right, so we've talked about some navigation pieces and actually started to get a little bit into making some changes. Let's talk about a couple of other things that are very important. I'm going to go ahead and exit to the front end. And let's just very quickly mouse over Edit Live again. In fact, let me just go back to the front page, to the home page, and mouse over Edit Live. And you'll notice besides the Edit Page button, which we've just looked at, there's some other options here as well. That is because sometimes there are elements that are on the page that we might want to edit that you can't edit by going to the back end. For example, you look here where it says first lesson free. This is actually a form that we have created somewhere else and embedded it into this page. So when we mouse over edit live, we can actually, it's called a callback. We can actually see that it's form right there. The name of it is a callback. But I can go ahead and click on that callback, and then I can make unique changes to just that form. So if I make changes to this form right now, it will make the same change to the form that we just looked at. Okay, so again, same thing navigation wise, and same thing when it comes to saving it. And then once we make those changes, we'll see them right here. The last thing I'll highlight, and there may be other items on the page as well that you need to look at. We're not going to get into those, but the last thing I will note is the global header and footer. So a header is going to be where our navigation is at the very top of a page, and our footer is going to be the navigation and everything that you see at the very bottom of the page. Okay, so these are going to appear no matter what page we go to. They're always going to usually be the same header and footer. Sometimes you can have unique headers and footers depending on the page, but you'll see it's the same thing. So sometimes we want to make some changes, in particular like that, maybe this footer, maybe there's some text here that we want to make some changes to. So we're going to mouse over the edit live and click on global footer, and it's going to allow us to, again, same look, feel. I can see very similar, but I can come in here and make a change to this if I want to. So driver wanting to pass for the second time, let's say, and so I can save that. I can now go ahead and navigate back to the front end. And if I want to, usually I always just look and say, hey, did it make that change? Yes, it did. And we're good to go. All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is actually navigating a little bit more of some of the advanced settings in Avada. If you're just wanting to figure out how to navigate pages, you can probably stop the video right now. But if you need to learn a little bit more about making unique changes to a bunch of settings like colors or logos or various things like that, then you want to keep watching. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over here to the dashboard, and we're going to see this Avada section right here, and it's got a whole bunch of options. For me, usually I just click on Avada, and it opens up what we call the Avada dashboard. And inside the Avada dashboard, again, you don't have to be too confused. A lot of this is just gobbledygook that we don't really need to pay attention to. But you'll notice two different menus up here. Options, website, studio, maintenance. Usually all you need is the options here. But then you also see some options as well below this menu bar. And sometimes we do need to play around with some of these options. For instance, if you have a unique website that has what's called an off-canvas menu or something like that, you would need to come into here to make changes to that. Now, this is very similar to when we were on the website and we looked and saw all of these, like this forms or different things like that. This is another way that you can access those. So here is also where I can access those forms. Same thing if there are sliders on a website. This is where you would find the sliders. This particular website doesn't have any sliders, so I can either look at the actual sliders themselves or the slides that are associated with the sliders. That's where these would be found, and I have to navigate pretty much there for that. And then we have just something called the library, which is going to hold a bunch of elements that we've created. You can even save elements. So for instance, this get behind the wheel section, if I wanted this section to appear in more than one page, but I didn't want to have to duplicate it, I can actually save it into the library and then add it to other pages. And whenever I made changes to it, it would make changes globally across all of them. Or I can just save it as a backup to use somewhere else. Again, this is all a little bit more advanced, but this is where you're going to access some of those things. The last thing that usually people want to know is in the Avada theme is options. So I'm just going to click on options, which is the equivalent of clicking on global options. And when we go into options, you will see just a ton of options over here. Now, I don't recommend that you play around with these things too much You can actually, if you don't know what you're doing, you can actually break what things look like or feel like. But if you understand enough, or if what you're making, the changes you want to make are fairly simple, then it should be okay. So for example, we can see here responsive options. That's usually an advanced item, but a lot of times people want to select the colors. Now, this particular template, the Avada driving template, has some default colors that are used to create consistency throughout the entire website. So you can see right over here, there's kind of like this green. We've got these green buttons over here. That's because one of the key colors, color number 4, is green. And so I can actually come in here if I want to, and we can change this color. So if I want to, I don't know, make it into some kind of, let's say like a purple, or just kind of make that little odd purple for a second, and I'll save that change. All right, it saved the change. I did it down at the bottom here. And now if I come back over here and refresh the screen, it's going to make some changes. So you see all the buttons kind of turn to the purple, various other things are purple. Now this didn't turn purple because probably this was done manually. These colors were probably implemented there manually. So we'd have to go in there and do some more updates in order to make some of those changes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put that back because I actually don't want that, and save those changes again. So this is where we're going to be making changes. We can make changes to our logo. And again, with the logo, there's usually various kinds of logos, different versions and kinds of logos. So keep that in mind. But this is where you'd be making changes to the logo, which is going to be the equivalent of this logo up here if it's set up properly. And again, a number of other things. If there's particular unique things that you're can't find, for instance, if you want to make changes to the favicon, you're like, well, what in the world's a favicon? I could just type favicon right here, and there is no favicon associated right now. You can see a favicon is that little icon right up here, this little WordPress. That's a WordPress icon. So if I wanted to, I can actually change the favicon, and I don't know if there's something I can actually select that's already in here. We'll just pick this little steering wheel right here. That might be a nice favicon. Actually, it's called a driving favicon, so it just wasn't selected there. So I just selected that. Again, I'm going to save changes. And now if I want to go to the website and update, I'll see it turns right here. There it is, a little driving favicon. That would work a lot better than the WordPress favicon, right? So, but like if you were in here and you're like, well, how in the world did I find a particular setting? I know it's in here somewhere, but I can't find it. We can actually search for it. All right, I think that covers the bulk of what I wanted to talk about in this particular tutorial video, how to navigate the Avada WordPress theme. And hopefully you found this helpful. There are other tutorials on my website, tlsites.com, that you may find helpful to help you to continue to keep your website up to date and to be able to navigate and make changes and everything else. So thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day. Bye now.